Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and GreenSunsZenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or CardHoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it.
Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with Abzan Depths, the first Abzan Maverick, the first Maverick deck I played post-ban, which is kind of cool. I haven't obviously played much Mav recently. I only just got back from, I guess, my hiatus. Played a little bit of Depths, really liked it, and want to see where Maverick is in terms of what creatures are worth it. Is it worth playing both Gaddock Teague and Collector Oof in the main deck? Is Thalia back? Is Bowmasters well positioned? Is Endurance a card that maybe should be a 4 of and Knight should be cut back on? Is Fiend Artisan still up to standards when it comes to creatures in Legacy? I really do like Fiend Artisan. I think that, yeah, it was tough to see it leave the format for a little bit, but I think that's really just because it relies on how good are the creatures that it can fetch. And I think right now it's pretty good being able to fetch, obviously, these plus the Doorkeeper Thrall in the sideboard. I did have a Plague Engineer, but I'm not too sure what it's for. Like, I think it might be good, but it really depends on how the metagame is currently evolving. And I think for now, Bowmaster does something very similar. Bowmaster works really well with creating sort of a 2-for-1 effect, typically, maybe even a 3-for-1. Great with Grist, having the token there or the Orc to get rid of, and then also having the Fiend Artisan, getting rid of the token, really good as well. Not sure if we need both Renegade Rallier and Ramanap. I really like Rallier in the Fiend Artisan builds because if you sacrifice a 2-drop for the Fiend to go and get a Rallier, then you can just get back the 2-drop. Really good with Bowmaster, obviously, but also great against decks where they might have, dismembered the Collector Oof and you want to get it back into play. So I think that's really good. We have 6 Mana Dorks. I have 1 Ignobled Hierarch, 4 Nobles, and a Dryad Arbor. That could very much so be an oversight. The reason I have 4 Nobles is I kind of built the deck as just a bunch of 4-ofs and then tuned it back to make space for some of the 1-ofs that I wanted, like Library and obviously the Green Suns targets and the extra removal spell and Abrupt Decay. I could see Noble being there. I really like the Exalted Mana Dorks. I'm not a big fan of Birds of Paradise, especially without Mother of Runes. You don't have that added advantage of having a flyer that you can give protection from. We don't have a Scrib Ranger, no Mum, so no Scrib. But I am thinking about that. The reason that I didn't have the extra Ignobled is that we are playing 2 Bayou and a Nurturing Peatland for black mana. So I don't necessarily need it, but it is quite nice to have. So I actually might change this list just quickly to play a 2nd Ignobled over the 4th Hierarch. And a 3-2 split is still pretty nice. Just having a Mana Dork that can tap for black is pretty key, especially against the matchups where you want it. Orcish Bowmaster good against Delver, typically a Wasteland deck. Any sort of creature deck like Death and Taxes or Maverick-esque Wasteland deck. So being able to have multiple sources of black mana that hopefully can't be removed as easy as your dual lands against a Wasteland deck could be relevant. Speaking of, I did play against a fair amount of Delver, so I have opted for Scavenging Ooze over the recently printed Keen-Eyed Curator, which becomes a threat quicker and is a little bit easier to activate with its mana requirements being colorless instead of a green. But I think that potentially the life gain of Ooze is just a little bit to give up. A little bit too good to give up right now. You could say though that because of the Bowmasters we have more ways to deal with early threats from Delver, that the life gain isn't relevant and it's worth just having, say, a 3-3, but I think for now I'm pretty happy with the Ooze. But it's one of those things that I think is really great to do when you're wanting to potentially test out a card over another, is whenever we have the Ooze, think, okay, what would Keen-Eyed be in this situation? Would it be faster? Is the life gain relevant? If not, take a little tally, and then after a few leagues, see where the tally's at. And if Keen-Eyed came out as being the card you want, then make the switch. The sideboard is pretty straightforward in terms of there's not too many one-ofs. Like the one surgical and endurance is just to have a little bit of difference when it comes to graveyard hate. Thoughtseize and Deafening Silence, great against the combo decks. Thoughtseize also quite good against some of the more mid-range Stoneforge Mystic builds. Path to Exile, they were dismembers because of Magus, but I do like that Path hits anything from Delver to Murktide, from, I was going to say Psychic Frog, but don't need to worry about that, Nethergoyf to Atraxa. There obviously is the drawbacks of Path to Exile on something like a turn 1 Mother of Runes, which feels awful, but I feel like the flexibility is worth the downside of some of that. Yeah, some of those bad beats, but Path is still my removal spell of choice in the board. Choke, I think is still great, especially in a build with Thalia, with Bowmaster, and obviously with Wasteland. Force of Vigor, really wanted to pick this up to 3 copies, but I just couldn't find where I could fit it because I really wanted that flexibility of the second Path as having like a more removal for creatures. So I think 2 and 2 is fine. I probably wouldn't cut back to 1 of either of these in an open unknown metagame, but I think, yeah, that's another sort of area where I like to look at. Deafening Silence, just a really good turn 1 play against most combo decks. It allows you to typically buy time, build out your board, build out your different ways of disruption. Whereas Thoughtseize is good, but there are times where it's not enough. Deafening Silence, I really like to think of Deafening Silence as kind of like a meddling mage effect for all rituals, typically like Lotus Petal, LED, etc. It just does so much that it's hard to play a deck like Maverick that is very fair without having access to it in the 75, because Maverick has a decent mid-range plan, but you have to get to that mid-range plan. You're not going to win the early game against combo decks if you don't have something like Deafening Silence. Like on the draw, having just a turn 2 play in maybe one of these is just typically not good enough these days. So making sure you have some sort of interaction turn 1 is, yeah, I think really key for playing Maverick. We also have Surgical as a option in the graveyard. The only reason I picked up Surgical is that I kind of like it with Thoughtseize, especially against namesake decks. So take, Doomsday, High Tide, which we see a little bit of online, but not too much. Show and Tell decks, of course, they have Show and Tell and Sneak, but there are still some decks where you can just get them, potentially even snagging. Probably not a Nadu. I'm probably not bringing in against Nadu unless I actually see the Cephalid Breakfast combo part of the deck in the build that we face. But otherwise, I'm not a big fan of just like the card disadvantage there, but it might come up that it's just the best way to deal with it. Allow them to draw off the first one when you destroy it, but then Surgical it so they can't Nadu again and have to play a really fair mid-range plan. Doorkeeper Thrall is one as well that I do like, but it has to be there. And by that I mean, well, there's a few things here. So first up, we'll go for the creatures. Creatures entering don't cause abilities to trigger. So if you bring this in against Death and Taxes and you're on the draw and they cast a Stoneforge when you have this in hand, that kind of sucks. But artifacts are also hit by this. So if your opponent got a Kaldra and then puts in the Kaldra, you can then put in Doorkeeper Thrall with Kaldra or the Stoneforge ability on the stack. The Kaldra comes into play, but it won't trigger and it won't get a germ. Same for Batterskull, which is pretty great because typically you have things where like Galactique does stop the ring, but if it's in play, it does nothing. Collector Oof is typically a little bit better in that it allows them to play the ring, but then they can't activate it. But once they find a removal like Dismember or Kozilek's Command, they can of course remove the Oof and then start going pretty, activating the ring. So there's cards where like they're better to get out early or they're better to react to. And I think Doorkeeper Thrall has a little bit of both, which is nice. You can either play it out just because you had the mana open and you want to get it in play, maybe against something like Mystic Forge decks to stop the ring. But then there's decks where you might want to hold it up against to make sure that you're actually going to get some value off it. The other big card is Thassa's Oracle that this is quite good against. Not many players would be playing around this sort of effect. They're probably even more so thinking of Endurance and trying to go for like a Tormont Crypt line where they exile the graveyard so they can't die to Endurance. But yeah, that's where we are. That's where the gist is. We have 3 onces, which I do like. I think once is a pretty good card for a deck like Maverick. I'm not a big fan of it when I play something like Turbo Depths, because I want to have a hand with Turbo Depths that shows me the line. It shows me the win. Whereas if you keep a once because you have Dark Depths, but then the once doesn't find Hexmage or Stage, then you've kind of, you're on the back foot already. So I don't like that once doesn't give you what you want in some combo decks, but I do like it in decks like Maverick and Green-White Depths because it just smooths things out a little bit. And I do like that, it's only 2 mana. So the first one for free is great. It allows you to dig for things like Endurance or potentially Fairy Macabre if you're on the draw against a combo deck. It typically finds you something pretty relevant, but one thing that I do want to do less more is keep it in a hand where I rely on it for a green source, because that doesn't always work out, and that's game. That is game against so many decks these days where you're going to make mistakes on turn 0 or 1 in this case that are going to cost you on turn 10, and it's because you had that stumble. And that's where I don't like once, is that you do get that little stumble, but for the downsides of that, it's been pretty good to me. So I don't mind the onces. Hey Loam boy, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Hope you've had some time off. That's very nice. Well, I hopefully this music and my voice will send you right to sleep. But until then, we have a Legacy League with Abzan Maverick using play points and going to gameplay. Nice. I do have some Loam content that I've had in the cupboard that I really want to grab and bring back onto the stream, because I do love playing Loam. I think Loam is a fantastic deck to play. It really helps with learning sequencing. I think sequencing is huge, especially for mana in 4-color Loam. Even little things like evaluating threats and knowing what to use your removal on and when. Loam is really good for. I think if you're a Maverick player, then you should play Loam, because Loam just gives you, I think it gives you like another take on a somewhat fair deck that does have mana acceleration, but typically in Mox Diamond and not so much creatures. Has a really good mid-range plan. Typically, I like the versions that are non-blue, just because I kind of feel like that's the essence of Loam. But the blue versions are very powerful as well. So there's parts where you're like, well, if I want to be like as competitive as I can be with Loam, go the blue version. And thankfully, Loam Boy is really good at keeping deck lists up to date, doing well with the deck, getting results with the deck. So it's always nice to have a resource behind a deck. The Goyfs are great. Like, I would love to play a Barrow Goyf in this. I just find it really hard to make room for non-green creatures, so you obviously can't green suns for them, that don't necessarily have like a massive impact on the game until the mid game. At least the non-green threats that I have kind of keep me alive in the early game. But Barrow Goyf is very powerful. It is another threat that relies on the graveyard somewhat, but I would love to find a little bit of time for it. All right, well, it wouldn't be a classic Mav start with a pretty awkward mana base. And sadly, this is a mulligan. I think if this was a fetch land on the play with 2 mana dorks, I would probably keep this, especially with the Rallier as well, potentially getting back another land. But yeah, this hand obviously says that we can't play anything until turn 2 unless we draw, or if we draw an actual land, but pretty happy to mulligan that. Okay, pretty happy to keep this. I think the line here is drop an Endurance, Green Suns for Savannah into Dryad Arbor, and then we have a mana advantage. We have white for swords. We then have an Endurance. I think we're bottoming an Endurance here. Modern does seem really cool. I'm currently writing a little bit of a primer on Maverick in Modern, which is not so much like here's the list, because that's very hard to do so early in the metagame. but just like a take on here's a few cards that do the same thing and here's why you should choose Knight of Autumn over Outland Liberator or Scavenging Ooze over Keen-Eyed. Removal's the big one. A lot of Maverick decks that I've seen are playing Path to Exile, which is fair, but I just feel like there's something better, but it's really tough because Fatal Push, Abrupt Decay, Prismatic Ending, all answer those low things, but if you come up against, say, a Murktide, it's going to be pretty tough. So I think it's a case of finding a mix of removal. Opponent went to 3. When they mulliganed to 3, I thought potentially don't Green Suns, hold it for the endurance if it is like a combo deck. Okay. Well, I'm going to assume this is like a mono black, maybe a Oops deck. Probably not an Oops deck. Maybe like a mono black Necro. I mean, a mono black Necro or a Necro deck-ish would do quite well. The Verdant here is really nice because it allows us to surveil in our opponent's end step and hopefully draw into a threat or disruption. I would assume like a Thalia is what I'm really looking for. Hey Prodigy, welcome. Hope you're well. We also get access to our black mana here through... Oh, we don't. Huh. So obviously pre-board, it's really just the Bowmasters, the Grist, and the Decay that we need the black mana for. I think here it's more important to get a live draw on the field, and we're happy to put this in the graveyard. Some sort of bear. That's not it. I can feel a little bit of snow under our wheels, and I feel us turning, but here we are. Comes in tapped, which is huge because we have this wasteland, but thankfully we don't have to use that until our turn unless we want to Green Suns for a bunch. Modern looks really cool. I do want to get some modern content going pretty quickly. Just while there's still a bit of hype around, especially for like what's new in the format, instead of just like coming into it with something new when the metagames become a little bit more settled. Hey Sato Sand, welcome. Okay, that is something, but we don't have black mana. Huge. Cabal Therapy. They know about the Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, Modern with Wasteland would be pretty interesting. Obviously, the closest thing is kind of... it is Ghost Quarter, Field of Ruin, Demolition Field, Obsidian Charmor, nice. Balustrade Spy, yikes. Really tough. Typically can find just something before this happens, but let's see if there's anything here that's too different. Jack-o'-lantern. Interesting. They do have the bridge, correct? Sorry, I guess they can hit themselves if they drew. They must have Dread Return in hand? Hey, mister. I am not. I would assume they're naming themselves. Ah. Did I just miss it? Ah, there it is. Okay. Apologies. Hey, Past. Welcome. All right, on the play, love the Deafening Silences, Surgical and Thoughtseize, Endurance, nice. Bowmaster doesn't do a whole lot. Decay, like some number of swords. Ramanap's a little bit slow. Knight's a little bit slow. Swords I don't mind taking out altogether. Maybe keeping it a K. There are some times where Deafening Silence means that our opponent will play out a creature and then want to activate it the following turn. So you can actually go after their creature. Or potentially might not even have it. Sylvan Library, Scoos, Liberator. Yeah, oops. Oops, I don't mind postboard. It's a bit more interactive. But it can very much be an endurance check, if that. I know sometimes they have a way to get out of endurance with cards like Memory's Journey or Pact. Quick Think. Doorkeeper Thrall actually is pretty cool. I think this is going to be it. I guess if they have Leyline of the Void of Serenity, it's worth bringing in Force of Vigors to have an out to that. Jack-o'-lantern, yeah, that's pretty cool. Ah, Grist, there we go. All right. No white mana, which is pretty tough. It does have force, but it's about it. Okay. This does have mana going for it, but it's, our opponent's probably keeping a 7 that's going to be turn 1, if not turn 2. So I think mulliganing to Deafening Silence or Thoughtseize is quite strong because it's in this matchup. I think it's more about card quality than card quantity. So I wouldn't be, too unhappy to go to 5 here. Okay. Sadly, the mana here has hit us. We'll go to 4. Okay. Actually, not the worst. We get to go Thoughtseize into Thalia. Ah, they're running Belcher too? Okay, well hopefully this Thoughtseize can slow them down. Interesting. Land. They have an Unmask. I think we're just taking the Unmask here. Unmask means the Thalia most likely hits the field. Interesting. Yeah, that's a pretty slow hand. Maybe they feel like postboard on the play we're going to have a lot of hate, and so just want to make sure they're hitting the land drops. Maybe they're like the multiple wastelands. Cabal. Okay. Probably endurance. That's what they saw. Swords. Okay. Play the Pale because they saw the Thalia. Lush. That's pretty nice as well. It means that if we don't draw live next turn, we can try to draw live the following turn. We want to get Savannah, I think, to have double green for, say, Endurance or Force. We do have the Lush, but I think that's fine. Yeah. Shimas comes in tapped. Oh. Okay. All right. That's pretty good. Okay. They can't dread return here. Unless they have another spirit guide. But we know the hand, right? And they don't have the mana for Memory's Journey? Hmm. Well, you know they still have Force of Vigor. Yeah. Play the Lush. That in the graveyard. We might as well Thoughtseize them. Yeah. Memory's Journey flashback. Okay. Is 2 mana. Hmm. So maybe it's an extra land I want to take. I guess the players upkeep Memory's Journey themselves, put 3 cards, and try to get there with blue sources into Oracle. Petal Oracle. Which is tough because I can't even keep Thoughtseize there. It has to be Endurance, I guess, for when they go to play the Oracle. A Wasteland would be lethal. Yeah, take them off the green so they can't flashback the... but now they can do it. Yeah. GG's. Tough. But honestly, like for the 4 we had, not too bad. Turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Thalia. But Spirit Guide off the top and then into Creature to flip is, yeah, just a little bit too hard to interact with. But not a matchup that I would typically board for. It just has some... Yeah, there's some cards that cross over for Oops, but I think I'm very happy to lose to the decks that are going to, win turn 1. I don't think it's worth targeting those with like Mindbreak Traps or Ferromacabres, or I think that if I want to target combo decks, it's the decks that I have a bit more percentage against, where I can actually get the turn to play something like a Deafening Silence. Pretty happy to keep this. We have turn 1 Dryad Arbor into turn 2 Bowmaster plus Wasteland potentially. Keeping the Windswept for Lush Portigo. Hey Mark, a huge thank you for the sub. I hope you're well. I hope you had a nice Christmas period. If you celebrated, are you having some nice time off work? Interesting. I'm a little bit worried of like Entomb. that I don't mind just going for Ooze here. Kind of sucks if they go like Float Black, Daze this, and then Entomb. I think we might as well eat the land. Just like a Murktide potentially, or a Barrogoyf. Hey Sato, look, if you say Abzan's the place to be, I will take your word for it. Sorry, Naya. Because yeah, I do like Blast. I just like playing with Minsk and Boo. Like Punishing Fire, Morlock. If those line up well, it's not too bad. Like I'm seeing more Delver, so potentially Punishing Fire's there. And then you have Swords and Blasts, hopefully for the Murktides. The mana's not too bad either. Interesting if they go after our mana. Because then we get to build out. Mint's too slow, yeah. Green Sun's Omnath in Modern with Knight, nice. Ooh, okay. Didn't expect the trop. I wonder if they just want to brainstorm now. Oh, Spellbomb, okay. Fair play. Scrubland's nice. Means we can hold up Bowmaster around Days. There is a world here where I wouldn't say it's wrong to just play the Bowmaster and pass. It means I can't go land fetch, like fetch land pass, and then hold up Brainstorm. Because I have two here, I'm pretty happy to go with at least one. And then if they have their own, then we have one to fight back. Oh, they're going to force it. Wow. Pitching the Days. So they care about it. Oh, that's quite nice. The question is, do I show it yet, or do I attack with the Dried Arbor? I'm going to attack first. Okay, because it's a 2/2, they allowed the Exalted to go ahead. I assume they don't have a Bowmaster in hand. I'm not too... I'm gonna go after blue to try to like make them brainstorm potentially. I could have also done this in upkeep if they are playing something like a Stifle main deck. They're gonna crack the bomb. Do they pay the black? They do. Nice. Which also means no more Orc mana for them. Main phase 2 is really underrated. I love a main phase 2. The only times where main phase 2 sometimes comes back to bite me is when I've, used a Canopy or a Once Upon a Time or evaluated GreenSunsZenith and I've wanted to get an Exalted creature, or I've got an Exalted creature and I didn't get that extra 1 damage through. Loam does sound fun. Knight's pretty good. What do they get rid of? Wasteland, Wasteland, Bayou, Bowmaster, Scoos. Okay. I'm going to start with attacking with the Bowmaster. Token. One of the most underrated phases. Love it. It really is. They can't daze me, which is nice. So we're going to go ahead and play the Knight. And I will play the land. I'll go to 0 cards. A little bit scary, but No play from them is also pretty huge. Okay. One little trick. Let's say they go land into Toxic Deluge for 3. What you can do is fetch, go and get Lush Portigo, and then hopefully put another land into the bin to make the night a 4/4. That's where Lush can be kind of cool. Okay. They're a blue deck, so I like the chokes. I'm not a big fan of the decay. Hey Junie, thanks for the follow. Very much appreciated. I like the library to keep up with things. Swords, I don't mind, especially if they're on like maybe like a Barragoyf or a Murktide plan. Oof can come out. They're 2 easy ones. Thoughtseize is interesting. What do we see? We saw Bug. Yes, Mark, that's a great one. Post-combat tricks, or end of combat tricks, I should say, where creatures are still an attacking creature. Another very cool thing with Blessed Alliance is block a smaller creature with a first strike creature like Thalia, kill it, and then before normal damage, make them sack the last creature. I don't know if I want to change too much here. I think we're just going to run back with the 2 chokes. Thoughtseize is kind of interesting, just to get a bit more knowledge about what they're playing and what we should be playing, but I'm happy to keep like the Outland Liberator for like beans. Okay. I'm pretty happy with this. Island. Okay. Ghost Vacuum. Okay. I don't want to use the fetches yet. The fetches right now could be Lush Portigo, it could be Dried Arbor. I don't want to throw them into this Ghost Vacuum either. Hey, Salty. Bowmasters is annoying, but not too bad. That's very cool to hear. I feel like Eternal Weekend Europe would be, well, it is one of those sort of bucket list things to get on board. Here, I actually don't mind just going for the next Hierarch. We know Daze is in the deck. They're probably going to get rid of the Noble here. Ah, that's very cool, Liliana. Elspeth's Smite is pretty powerful. 3 damage to attacking or blocking creature? Main phase Brainstorm. Okay. I will go for Lush here. Okay. Knight would just be a small creature, but I don't mind Knight. Could fetch. I think we'll play the Bayou. If we ooze, they probably eat this in response with the Ghost Vacuum. We could eat the Brainstorm. The Knight would become a 2/2. I think it's just plain Knight. It eats a Daze, not the worst. Interesting, so they don't go after the Windswept. Maybe to think I could like block, but then they could remove. Their mana also isn't very chokeable, which is a little surprising, but makes sense. I wonder if this is just like a mid-range bug deck. Okay. Oh, Skoos now becomes a 3/3. That's kind of cool. I'll take that. Let's get the other Bayou. Let's tap our mana like this, so it acts like we have maybe swords up as well. They have 3 cards. Captain Force. Interesting. Could just be a grist tick up here. Or endurance target them. I actually don't mind endurance. It also keeps a Murktide off the field if that's the thing. But to be fair, if they had Murktide, they would have cast it. That makes me think that they drew like a reanimate effect. At least it stems the bleeding. They can't really attack here. Do I want to get Dryad Arbor? I probably do. Just to make sure it's not the draw. Ooh. That's kind of cool. Could Green Suns for Grist here? Kind of want to get this Ghost Vacuum off the field though, so I might Green Suns for 2 and see what they do. I haven't played a land yet either. Oh, okay. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4. think we're just going to pass here. Try to get a situation where they try to remove the Liberator potentially. It's tough. Ghost Vacuum I don't really want to care about, but I kind of have to as well. Just because of all the creatures they've got. But hey, a huge thank you for all of you for watching. I very much appreciate it. I should be back to 2 times a week, potentially even getting a Modern Monday stream going, where I'll pretty much just predominantly focus on different builds of Modern Maverick and what it could potentially look like. I saw a list at 5.0'd, which is very cool. So I think that's like a good starting point, but also building out kind of a primer on what sort of targets there are for Green Suns in Modern that are relevant and why you might play one over the other. But yeah, removal's the big thing. I kind of wish, but I also don't wish that Snuff Out was in Modern. It might just be a little bit too good. This feels like Decay on Endurance. That's very true, yeah. The blue-black deck looks really good, especially with that 5/5 flyer that creates 2/2s that manifest. That thing is Oculus, I think it's called. Very good. This is where like a Plague Engineer style card would be kind of cool. But at the same time, so would Bowmaster. So really tough to say. Oculus Dreadnought would be very cool. Interesting. Target me, get a land back. Oh, there's a Bowmaster as well. Blue-White Starfalnaut. There's lists playing Oculus. Very cool. Because I believe, is it manifest where the card comes down, but then you can actually pay its cost to bring it up? Okay, so this we can use to sack and hit. Oh, they do nothing? Wow. Okay. Interesting. Because now we get to get back the Bowmaster with the Rallier, which might actually really change things. And I think with that we take out the Baleful Strix. Yeah. Don't want to block. I guess, yeah, it's interesting. Maybe we do. Yeah, I think we actually do, because going to 1, like 1 to 2, 1 to 1, and going within Bowmaster range is kind of lame. And I think that the Renegade Rallier plus the Bowmaster token should be pretty good at making sure we stick around. All right, so land, fetch, scrubland, Rallier, trigger, Bowmaster, trigger, Bowmaster. Nice. I don't want to show this yet either, in case they do something. But I want to get this Bowmaster off the field before I draw with this. Grist is pretty good. Brainstorm in the bin. Interesting. We have to block. The question is, do we double block? I probably wouldn't mind that. Oof. Grows. I think in that case I should have triple blocked. There's no reason then not to triple block. Hey Panda, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Prismatic Ending is a card that I like that also hits things like Ghost Vacuum, but also creatures. I think we're just going to run this back. I don't mind the extra endurance. Might just be a noble. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a big thing about Modern, is that Knight isn't as powerful. There's Noble. That's kind of cool because that keeps... Oh, I don't like that change. Ugh. That was a great question there. Yes. Knight's power level is a little bit neutered in Modern. Like no Wasteland, no Caracas, no Talon. There's a few more. Wasteland, Caracas, Cradle, Talon. Jewels, obviously. Yeah, the retreat version seems really cool. I don't want to play the Fiend Artisan as just a 1/1 because of Orc. So I don't mind probably just going untap Caracas Green Suns for Oof. Oh, sorry, for Ooze. Bog is Modern Legal. Sorry, did I say Bog? I did write them down. Dual Lands, Wasteland, Crackers. Yeah, Dark Depths, if you are playing that. Maze of Ith, another one. I've also started a Modern Maverick channel in the Green Suns Discord, so if you want to listen to that. Ooh, nice. I mean, Crackers here is just perfect. And then we just get to hold up Once Upon a Time here. Pretty happy here to try to find a wasteland with once. No, we do find Thalia is pretty sweet. Thalia is a little bit susceptible to Bowmaster, but there's also the thought of just building out my mana. It is a little bit interesting that they didn't go, if they have a Bowmaster, they didn't go land Bowmaster Noble. They chose to go Wasteland on Caracas and get the Tamiyo back into play. So I think I will actually go with Thalia here. It used to be that you click on it and it automatically does that. It didn't do the done thing, which I don't like. Oh, okay, perfect. So Wasteland this. And then I'm pretty happy now to play the Thalia. That means Bowmaster's off the table. With 1 mana, they can't flip the Tamiyo. They can get a clue. Well, they're going to wasteland us. That's fine. That means that this Swords is going to resolve. They didn't attack. This is an exalted creature. That is very interesting. Okay. Start with the attack. That's pretty huge not to get the clue. I'm also happy-ish to play Scrubland here. I don't think that they would wasteland us with our board. I think that might put them a little bit too far behind. Go for the flawless. Typically it's happening against us, so they keep on top. Okay. Other swords. I do like here what we get to do is play Fiend Artisan. And then if they have Bowmaster for Thalia, we can then untap and probably trade away the Noble for our own. I'm not too sure about traveling for Highlander events. I don't currently have plans, but I do like the thought. Fatal Push, wow, okay. Of going to either, probably not CanCon, just because of other trips that I planned personally, but I might get the time for Mana Clash, which would be pretty sweet. I am going to graveyard this. Sorry, I should have got another Mana Dork there and attacked for 4. That was a slight, just a little bit too quick on the pulse. Go for Ignobled. At least Grist isn't great here, because we can Swords the token, attack Grist for 4. Interesting. Aha! We don't have the mana for it. Okay. But funnily enough, if we get to... If they take out the Thalia, we then get to access it. 3 mana. Bug colors. 3 mana. Witherbloom. Okay, gonna make us mill. Night Verdant once. Not too bad. Interesting. I think it's just getting endurance into play. This is where I do miss kind of like a Tarmogoyf effect, which is kind of where Keen-Eyed fits, but just having a threat for like a threat for 2 mana. 2 mana is typically a bear, like an Ooze or a Teague or a Collector Oof or an Outland Liberator or a Keen-Eyed, but Keen-Eyed is closer to being like an actual threat that you can just grab. Feed Artisan kind of fits the role there, but typically slower than Goyf in terms of beatdown. White of the Reliquary is kind of cool, but I think you also have to build out like a decent mana base of the game, mana portion. Strix, okay. We do have the sword for that. And then we have Exalted for the win? Is that a thing? Ooh. Trifle Wasteland. Oh, no push. Swords this. Oh. Even if they force it, it has to be days, right? They can't force it. Wow. Nice. Very cool. Very nice. I was a little bit worried of Fatal Push there because Fatal Push is turned on to hit the endurance by both removing the Baleful Strix and the land. But I think there is just a case of, even if they floated mana, I would be really sus and maybe consider a different line. Like maybe to put them down to 1, but tough. Hey K-Sound, welcome. Hope you're well. Always cool to play against the bug decks and just show that you can fight alongside them. Especially that game was very fair. No Bowmasters, no Sylvan Libraries, no Raminaps, just like value. I have dabbled in Vintage. I played a card called Savage Summoning in a Vintage deck, which is pretty cool. It gives all your creatures flash and uncounterable and +1/+1. Sadly, another 1-lander. We are going to mulligan this. Okay, better. And we get to keep and bottom the Liberator, as it's probably the most niche bear. And then start with a once to try to find a Mana Dork. Yes. And then we can start off with the Mana Dork, which is pretty nice. It might mean we get to go turn 2 double spell, which I think is probably like one of the most unfair things Maverick can do, which on the scale of unfair is definitely towards the 0 more than the 10. But it is nice to have mana acceleration in this deck. Just a Misty. I'm actually just going to go for Thalia here. Not attacking first, play around Days, but then also having the Ignoble up to attack with the following turn potentially. Ooh, interesting. Veil. This might be Sneak and Show. I'm getting Sneak and Show vibes. Especially with Force, Pitch, Ponder. I assume we put in the Thalia here so that if they put in, say, an Attract, so they can't force the swords. Okay. They have an Omniscience. Oh, we have a Knight. I think we'll play the Knight, try to get Caracas at some stage. I think that's a better line than trying to like get a few points with Orcish Bowmasters, because I don't think it gets enough. Okay. That's actually huge because they just put a card in the bin and it's a non-land, it's a non-tapped land. Oh, wow. Okay. We get, oh my gosh. Okay. Nice. So we get to play the Caracas. We get to attack with Thalia for 3. And then we will also Wasteland. The question here is, obviously they currently have double red for Sneak. So I think we should take them off at least one activation of Sneak Attack. If that's possible, yeah. So I think we should actually put in the Bowmaster now. Hit them. And then I think we take them off the commercial. It doesn't really matter. It just matters that it's a red source for the... honestly, it could also be a case of take out the Ancient Tomb, because it resembles 2 spells they can cast through Thalia. Wow, okay. Well, there you go. Sometimes Sneak have one half and they just don't find the other, which is very lucky for us. Thankfully, they were able to hit 2 spells that just aren't great in this matchup, which are the Veil of Summers. So we were just lucky to get there. And potentially, this is a world where we can bring in the Surgical and take out either Sneaker Show or that other card, which is Sneak Attack. A lot of this comes in. I typically like bringing in the parts and taking out 2 swords because we're winning through beatdown, and I don't want them to gain like, 7 life. I'd rather them just potentially have a basic. But post-board, they typically go for basics because they don't want to get wastelanded, or they might have a Magus plan, so path typically works out pretty well. Doorkeeper Thrall, I don't mind either. So that's a lot. But there's a lot we can take out as well. I like going down on swords, ramming up a little bit too slow, endurance. The only uptick, or the only ability that is nice with endurance, is that it creates an ETB effect. So if you have show and tell, and you put in an endurance, and your opponent puts in omniscience, then you get the ETB effect on the stack, which means that you could then say Force of Vigor the omniscience before your opponent can cast a sorcery speed spell or a creature with omniscience. But typically they have the Cunning Wish plan, which just means they can respond to that with Cunning Wish. But it's definitely something to think about. Bajuka Bog, same sort of thing. Obviously Night of Autumn would be pretty cool here. Ooze. Collector Oof does hit like Lotus Petals, but I think a little bit too slow. Teague does stop Sneak, which is nice. Decay typically just too niche. I don't mind going down on Mana Dork. The Bowmasters and the Thalias I don't mind. Well, sadly, the players that I've played against have always had the Cunning Wish. So I'd love to play against the version without it. Teague is interesting. It means you can't Force a Vigor with Teague in play. Renegade a little bit slow, but also if they force something, we can then get it back. Grist is nice. Sylvan Library can be a little bit too slow. Liberate is nice to have. Fiends I could see coming out. This is pretty good. I don't mind this. Really want to have like a Thoughtseize or a Deafening Silent start. Sadly, this is where the mana has been the whole time. We will mulligan this. A little bit slow, like it has interaction in Wasteland, but no real plan. Everything. Okay, I actually don't mind this because we can bottom a Deafening Silence, bottom the Orc, and then still have a bit of a game plan. I mean, Caracas being the source as well is kind of like a spell. I think because of that, I'm happy to play the Plains and then put the Caracas in off a show and tell. Brainstorm, interesting. So they're digging for something specific. No shuffle. Okay. Come on, fetch land. No, but not a black source either. Not a black source either. I'm still gonna hide that Caracas. Interesting, no fetches. This makes me think that they have Ancient Tomb and Sneak Attack, and they want to hold up an extra mana for the red. Ooh, okay. Interesting. I could just slam the choke here. I actually don't mind that. Force pitch brainstorm. Okay. But if the read was sneak into red source, into creature, maybe Caracas was the better play. Because force doesn't really interact with sneak the way you want it to if they have the mana available. That's fine. That's a one spell for turn. Okay. Here's my second green source for the force. Interesting keep by them because they haven't cast a show and tell or a sneak. They must have just kept a hand that they felt was pretty consistent in terms of mana and cantrips, and maybe a force to have some interaction. Wow, it's just another pass back. Are they trying to cast Omniscience? What's happening here? Once. Interesting. So I could once for a bear. 2 mana, play that, and then play the creature. I don't mind that, because if it's specifically Gaddock Teague, that's actually pretty good at keeping Sneak off the table outside of a show and tell. But it's tricky because if I once, we can't keep up the Force of Vigor unless we keep the creature in hand. But if I once this turn, I want to play the creature again so that we can untap and just hold up hardcast Force of Vigor. So I think we actually will go with once here. I think because of this, we just take the Wasteland. And that's probably just going after the Thundering Falls. I don't think the green in this matchup is going to be relevant. So I don't think taking them off the trop is worthwhile. Okay, that's their spell for turn. I don't mind that. I don't want to cash in this Nurturing Peatland either because it's currently our only second green source. Okay, that's pretty good. Tap like this so we can hold up both Krakus and Path. Very weird game, very different to the first game, very different to most Sneak and Show matchups. I think that it's going to pass back here. Wow. Wow. I mean, now we get to take out the commercial district. Grist is pretty sweet. Does Grist, is there a way that we lose? Wow, that is going to give up. That is the most Sneak and Show. No words. No words. They literally got bored. We weren't doing anything. Oh my gosh. Maybe they just thought they couldn't get out from like a wasteland lock under the night. All right. Okay, I don't mind this hand. Yeah, like once, maybe a Mana Dork, Savannah, not turn to Thalia or Night, Wasteland, interaction in Swords. Would love it to be a fair matchup, like a Windswept Heath. That'd be very cool to see. Ugh. Opponent potentially counting, which is terrifying. Ooh, Delver. Okay. Nice. Hey, Punishing Waterfalls. All right. We'll do Delver. How would you like to come on? How would you like to come on stream? We'll do it together. You can hold my hand. Now, I know that most players don't like wastelanding Delver players, especially when they've played a turn on Delver, but the amount of times that my opponent has played a Delver with one land instead of cantripping, I'm always happy, especially with a hand like this where we have access to a lot of things, to take them off the Underground Sea. Yeah, like potentially we can throw the once into a... If this actually shows days, well, once before they draw. Polluted Delta. Okay. I think if they fetch, I'm happy to once in response. Yeah. Just so I don't get dazed on this. I do want to find a land, most likely. Well, it's a land. Kind of back to square one. Except they have a Delver. Did they go for a basic? They're a coward. They are a coward. Troll. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So I feel like we want to go Savannah into Dryad Arbor and then work our way from there. A second Swords is really nice. Savannah. Dryad Arbor. Wow, they 6th there, which makes me think they don't have days. Undercity? They revealed it as well. They're revealing these. Or do they have to? You may reveal that card. No. Interesting. At least if they wasteland our Savannah, then they can't also reanimate the troll. I assume they take one sword here. Kind of cool. It seems like probably a Grixis build. Although it is playing Island Swamp, so maybe it's just blue-black. And just like a blue-black Delver deck that plays the reanimation sort of package of Troll. Because of that, and because we don't have Scrib Ranger, I think I'm actually happy to block here and take the Delver off the board. It does mean the Cradle gets weaker, but I am always pretty happy to take a threat off the board if we don't have an answer to it straight away. They didn't have days last turn. Nice. Yeah, it is quite fair. Okay, no Wasteland. That's great for us. Wow, just a pass. Oh, Endurance is a huge pickup. That means we're pretty happy to slam Knight. And then attack with the Thalia. Hey, fine. Thanks for the follow. Hope you're doing well. If you play Legacy yourself, let me know where you're from. A little trick we could have done is we could have Endurance evoked, hit their graveyard to get the troll out of the way, and then tap 2 mana with Cradle, and that would have allowed us to play the night around days. It is too hot here. But I didn't want to make that play because I want to really get I want this Endurance in play. Against Delver, a 3-4 reaches is great. Okay, there's the days. It's tricky because if they fetch here, you could respond again with Endurance to keep like a Murktide off the field. But because we have the swords, I'm not too unhappy with where we're currently at. Especially if they tap out for the Murktide. Legacy player from Sweden? Very cool. I feel like Sweden has quite a good paper Legacy scene. If this is a Murktide, a land off the top would be great. It means we could play the Oof off the Wasteland and... oh. Interesting. Didn't expect that. They played the island as well, so it's not like they're wastelanding this turn. Maybe they want to daze again? Also, here is a great point. If we untap, don't find a land, we play the Thalia. If they daze because the Cradle taps for nothing, we can then Endurance, pitch the Collector Oof, and then tap Cradle for mana. Yeah, so let's try that. Here's Thalia. Okay. At least here we still have Endurance up with the Cradle for days. So we're not... I think Wasteland is really the card I'm scared about because we have most threats covered with swords. The Bowmaster's great, so once we find black mana for that, that's awesome. The Endurance is going to cover the graveyard as well, potentially. I think best case is that it's pass with Brazen Burrower up. Okay, they're just going to play it in their turn. Well, that's even less scary because now they're not holding up something else and they're tapped out, so whatever we do is uncounterable. Which is pretty nice, especially if it's a fetch land here. No, but that is fine. I probably don't mind just playing the Noble here off the Cradle. The extra mana doesn't do a whole lot. I guess it does mean we can hold up Endurance. Okay. It means we don't hold up swords, but holding up Endurance is pretty good. Actually, we should just Endurance now. We shouldn't try to be too... Yeah. We should just endurance now. I would say it's actually correct just to endurance now, because they can't force, thankfully. It gets rid of the troll, it gets rid of potentially Murktide. It's a 3/4 blocker for the Brazen Burrower, and it means that if we move into like a Day's Wasteland turn, then it's obviously really bad. Endurance so good. I feel like a lot of people say it, but they're trying to force, but they can't because of they're tapped out the Thalia. So I assume this is just a newer player getting to know the deck. Which is great for us as well, knowing that one card in the hand is force. Okay. Pretty tough spot, to be fair. Oh, okay. Well, they just left. I can only hope they get more reps in and maybe just become a bit more familiar with the deck, comfortable. Because Blue-Black Delver is a great place to start in Legacy. Get access to cantrips, Force of Will, Delver, Daze, Troll. Nice. Could try to finish this 4-1. That'd be pretty cool. Just to confirm, played against Blue-Black Delver. Oops. There was a bug deck and one more sneak. A little bit awkward with the Dried Arbor, but I don't think that's enough to throw this away. Eldrazi. Okay. Well, this would be cool. This would be pretty challenging. It's always a little bit awkward on the draw turn one when you have swords, knowing there are Thought-Knot deck. That potentially if you tap out for like Hierarch, they then untap player second soul land and just cast the Thought-Knot, taking your main answer. I mean, Chalice is pretty tough here as well. Yeah. Well, there goes our plan. If this is Thought-Knot, I think we should probably just concede. Like, even the Fleshbreak, we're not really going to have a way out of it. Postboard. The paths. Teak can come out. Most likely Oof. Thalia. I don't mind the Bowmasters, just because of how they line up well with like Grist and Fiend. Thoughtie's on the play, I don't mind, and the Doorkeeper Thrall is pretty good. I could see an Endurance or two going. Probably having access to the Force, knowing about the Could cut down on Bowmasters, to be fair. I haven't tested white yet, just because I haven't put time into how different the mana base would look. But it is a card that looks really good on paper for Mav. And I think a lot of players have tried it out and had a lot of, yeah, found it really good. I think we'll just go like this. It being 2 mana is really nice. It having Vigilance is really nice. I have played it in Cradle Control with Newton, and it was really powerful there. I don't think it has the same effect where if you cast it on turn 2 and you untap with it with Cradle, you're most likely going to win. I think it's a little bit different. Okay. Probably want to find a Mana Dork with the once. No. Okay. I don't mind the extra land. Okay. Let's go and get a scrub land and get rid of this now. Knight's pretty good here. I feel like it's good enough to tap out with. I mean, it's access to Wasteland, which is the big one. Dismember. Ooh. Sadly, nothing just yet. A path at the end of draw step. Just in case they drew the waste. I believe they play a waste. Okay. Could just be Grist here. I think Grist will give us a chance. Don't think there's really, like, I don't think, yeah, there's anything else. It could even be ramming up without Wasteland is too slow. Knight probably too slow. Still a 5/5. I don't mind Grist tick down. I was going to make a dude, but I think getting rid of the Thought Knot, they don't have any attackers right now. I don't think they play any haste creatures. Oh, It That Heralds does buff though. Yeah, this card's insane. This is probably a matchup where I would like the Plague Engineer to take out the tokens. Yeah, it is very good against us, which is really sad. It used to be quite good against it, quite good for us. Yeah. Yikes. Tough. Really tough. I mean, we don't have too much that targets Eldrazi, and I think we actually should, but it's just really hard to target Eldrazi, which is my issue. But at least we finished positive, which is a good sign for like a first take on the deck. Down to Eldrazi, down to Oops, which I think both, that's normal. Up against Sneak, not really normal. Up against Delver, yes. Up against Bug, probably not, but nice to get up there. Yeah, really interesting one with Eldrazi. I don't mind Plague Engineer because it does nullify Glaring Fleshbreaker. I do like Snuff Out, but I don't like that Snuff Out doesn't hit some creatures that we do care about. Like against, say, Blue-Black, if they do get the Troll into play, then having like a removal spell in the yard that doesn't hit a creature you actually care about is pretty tough. Opposition Agent, another one. Obviously Atraxa, but yeah, the Snuff Outs can be nice, but also stacks up. 4 life is a lot. So probably in this build with Scavenging Ooze, I would like it, but I think otherwise it's, yeah, it's kind of like get lucky. I think a lot of the time against Eldrazi, it's going to like make them stumble a little bit and then hopefully get there with Wasteland. Maybe your Knight is a 6/6 and they have Dismember, things like that. Swords Helps path is okay, but they do get mana off it, which is pretty huge. Yeah, so I think the reasoning for the Ooze over the bigger threat was that for the Delver matchups, which I've been playing against a fair bit, I do like the life gain, and that is pretty much it. I also feel that's really it. Yeah, I would say that most of the time Keen-Eye's better, as it has less restriction on the activated ability, being just a colorless, and it typically becomes a threat a lot quicker. But that's the only thing. Yeah, Toxicrene I think is just a little bit too slow, unfortunately. I really want to try to get something in play early on, or have access to removal to keep creatures off the battlefield. But yeah, it's tricky. I've tried so many times to like have like a strong Wasteland start, and they just keep always having lands. Like I feel like their mana base is actually quite good these days, compared to times past, but that is Legacy. But yeah, it's a really hard deck to go after. It's a big reason why I play the Gaddock Teeg in the main deck, because that and also Mystic Forge do play Kozilek's Command as their main removal spells, so being able to turn that off with Teeg is pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, Tox is interesting. It's tough as well because it just runs into Dismember as well, which typically I would assume Eldrazi would probably keep a hand that has removal in it like Dismember. Postboard. But that is me. It is 12:30 a.m. I'm going to be back next, most likely with Modern Maverick and my first Modern stream, so looking forward to that. But a huge thank you to all of you for coming in, to the new subscribers, the new followers. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, really cool to come out here and finish with something a little bit positive, which is always nice. But thank you so much. I'm going to quickly see who else is streaming and send you over there. Oh, there's a Modern Elves player. That's pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to send you over to this player. Please say big hello to them. But yeah, have a great time off. I'm going to be going to the coast for a few days, so I won't be streaming. But most likely Sunday night-ish. Today's Thursday, Saturday. Yeah, back then. So until then, catch you next time.